Aloha, everybody, and welcome to the Jason Jones Show. I am your host, broadcasting to you from the beautiful hill country of Texas. I have just returned home. I have a lot to talk to you about. We won't talk about it today, but I just returned home after spending 2 weeks in the West Bank, in the occupied West Bank, spending time with the Christian communities, not only in Bethlehem and Bet-Zahor, but also in Teba and Ramallah. And so there's a lot to download and share with you about my trip there and why we were there. But today is January 6th. And so I want to do a special show with a good friend of mine, Nick Ochs. But before I get to that interview, I want to let you know the show is being brought to you by the Vulnerable People Project, standing in solidarity with the most vulnerable people in the world when the world has left, from Christians in Afghanistan to the vulnerable Christian communities in Gaza and the West Bank. We're in Nigeria, Sudan. Go to our website, vulnerablepeopleproject.com. Look at what we do. If you're not impressed, never go to that website again. But if you are impressed, then click on the button in the upper right-hand corner and become a monthly donor. Because thanks to our donors this Christmas, every Christian family in Gaza had a pop-up home, not only in the Catholic communities, but also in the Orthodox communities as well. And beyond that, we've delivered pop-up homes to the orphan communities. We've been providing a steady potable water, firewood for heat, and we can't do that without your support. Okay, so today, my guest, Nick Ochs. Before I invite Nick Ochs on, I want to read to you what I asked AI if they had any thoughts for my interview with Nick Ochs. And what AI said was, make it clear that this is not an endorsement and state explicitly what the interview is about. It's important that you protect yourself and your reputation. I thought that was very interesting, Nick Ochs, that AI was warning me about my interview with you, that I had to be very clear. This is an endorsement, but in fact, it is an endorsement. You're my friend. And I'll never forget. No, by the way, Nick, welcome to the Jason Jones Show.
Thank you very much for having me on, Jason. I really appreciate it.
I like the green screen because it goes with the theme of today, scary, young, conservative man. So I really appreciate the green screen in the back. That's not quite to the top. It's good. So when I first met you, it was, I don't remember the year, maybe 2016 or 17. It was at a Republican Party event at a country club, really one of the most beautiful places in the world, this country club on the Kaneohe side of Oahu. And it's up there tucked in the mountains. And it is startlingly beautiful. I went to graduate school just down the street from that location, Hawaii Pacific University. And every day I would walk out and look up at the view and go, how could life ever be better than this? And really, it couldn't be. And so I was with my wife, and I think we sponsored a table or something for the Hawaii GOP. And there was this beautiful young couple. They looked like, you looked like, like a ska, like you were like the lead singer in a ska band. You were dressed.
All right.
And your wife, who may have just been your girlfriend at the time, is startlingly beautiful. And my wife and I were just really impressed with the both of you. And from what I remember from that meeting, I found out you were in the Marines, correct?
Correct. That's how I got to Hawaii.
And the Army brought me to Hawaii. And then that you were also a conservative at the University of Hawaii. And the faculty there gave you a lot of grief. And when I was a conservative at the University of Hawaii 20 years before you, the faculty gave me a lot of grief. So I felt a lot. Here we were veterans going to college, conservatives in a blue state, although we can talk about it. I think Hawaii is a very conservative state. It's just based on circumstances, it's been trapped and controlled by the Democrat Party. Most of those circumstances of the Hawaii GOP's own making. But so that's my memory of you. And then we didn't talk a lot, but then, we're both busy. But flash forward, it's January 6th, 2020. Yes?
Yep.
20, 21, 20, 21.
That was the big one for him. Was no, it was 21, because it'll be 5 years today. Is there's some anniversary stuff going on.
Yeah, so that's why we're doing the show, because it was 5 years ago today that you texted me, "Hey, bro, you're here." And I don't think I had you in my phone. So I said, sorry, my phone crashed. I don't have you in my contacts, which is what I say to everyone. And then you're like, hey, this is Nick. Hey, Nick. And what are you doing here? Well, we were in Washington, D.C. for the J6 event.
Yeah, I was just there to cover it. I hadn't planned on going, but somebody knew of my local media activity and got me a ticket like 2 days before. So I said, sure, I'll do this one.
So you were there last minute.
Yep.
And I was there because the organizers asked me if I'd speak. And I had said, I would love to speak. Can I speak on the Uyghur genocide? And they said, yes. So beyond that, I really didn't know much. I was texting with Steve Bannon. I was texting with Alex Jones. I was texting with Ali Alexander, the organizer, but really didn't know I was there. What was interesting is Steve was telling me to go the heck home. He says, it's not going to turn out good. Go away, which I thought was interesting.
Mhm.
Alex was full of excitement and Ali was full of excitement. And I didn't really know what the day was about. In fact, I was in my hotel room 30 minutes before I was supposed to speak, thinking there's going to be no one there. I don't know what this is. But then I felt guilty and said, even if it's a couple hundred people, I should go speak to them on the Uyghur genocide. So I got in the elevator from my hotel and walked out onto the mall and was just overwhelmed by the sea of people. And it was actually quite a beautiful day. If you were to take away the signs, judging by the people there, if you were to ask me, what is this political rally about? I would have said, I don't think it's a political rally. Is this a 4th of July celebration? Because it was so ethnically diverse. It was just so, I'd never seen a political rally that was more reflective of who the American people are. It was just America there that day. And it was a lot of fun. And then you texted me, and then we'll get to the interview. You texted me, and I just remember at the time I had to go to the bathroom. It was cold, and I wanted Thai soup. I wanted tom kha gai or pho, one or the other. And we were messaging back and forth that, hey, let's get our jobs done here as soon as possible. I'm going to give my speech. You're going to do what you got to do. And then let's meet for soup. And then all hell broke loose and your life changed. What's so mysterious to me about January 6th is how some people's lives were utterly destroyed, or not destroyed, but I mean, I'm sure it was wreaked havoc on your life and your family's life and your hopes and your dreams. And then others like me just kind of skated, there was just no consequence. It's so startling. We were all there together. So Nick Ochs, you have a new book out, and it's about your experiences in prison as a J6 defendant. So welcome to the Jason Jones Show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited about the book. And it's funny and it's sad, but it's more funny than sad, you know?
The Age of Rot, like explain to me the title.
Well, it's the last era we were in, right? That the age of rot. I don't think it's any secret that we're in a bit of a societal decline for a while now, but the height of something was reached while I was locked up in federal prison. The sort of Biden universe, the liberal reach into every facet of your lives, which I felt more than maybe some have. It was the tip of the iceberg there, and that's what that book is about. Is that particular feeling at that particular time to be on the wrong side of politics.
Yeah, so maybe let's go back before you landed in prison. Let's talk about, how did you end up in prison? Whenever I remember I was with Andrew Breitbart at CPAC, or Values Voters, I think it was, this famous
Mhm.
scene you may remember of Andrew on roller skates. And he was just kind of teasing the Antifa types.
Right.
And then it cut to Andrew like on the side of the road, like yelling at them. And then I was right next to Andrew, and I was saying, Andrew, even when you see a young leftist, you shouldn't hate them. You shouldn't be so angry, because they're a young person. Maybe they're swept away by ideology. Maybe they're just pious to the gods of the city and the gods of the age and the spirit of the age. But there is some sense of the common good and some sense of risking their own personal well-being for the common good, even if we disagree with them. And Andrew turned to me like I was crazy. You're a squish. They hate us. They want us dead. You know. But here you are, a young man, and you were a veteran. You were married to the love of your life, and you were committed to the common good. to the point of there being social costs. So tell us your inciting incident. How did you become a political activist?
Well, I mean, I've been doing this for a while. I was really kind of a day one Trump guy. Really, I guess I was a 2 weeks after because I was hired onto a boat in the Caribbean at the time. I didn't really hear he was running until I got off, and the first thing I looked into is that speech he gave, and I called it. I said he's going to win this election, and I was right because I know I have a sense of what issues matter, and those
How
issues have
old were you
always.
then?
I just got out of the Marine Corps. I joined late, so that was 15 in my 20s. It's been a while. We've been doing this for a while. Late
You're in
20s.
your 20s. Okay.
Yep.
So, because older people, like when we hear you've been doing this for a long time, like to me, that was just seems like yesterday, Trump running for office,
Right.
right? So, but
But
for
more than
younger,
10 years, you know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah, for 10 years when you're a young man, that's a long time. So you knew, so was Trump the birth of your activism?
Yeah, I suppose so. Because before then, I was in the Marine Corps. I'd just gotten out, and you can't really get too political while you're in the military. You shouldn't, I suppose.
And why did you, so what was it about Trump that was attractive to you? Obviously, you didn't start out a full scale conservative. Was it just a sense of America's in the wrong direction? This guy can right the ship, or what was it? Like, so for me, it was abortion was the inciting incident as a young
Yeah.
soldier, actually. In Hawaii at 17, I started going door to door talking to civilians about abortion on my off days, 1989. And so was there a single issue or was it just the power of Trump's personality? What was it that attracted you?
Immigration is my issue. I think it is the most important issue. But and the fact that it was addressed and it wasn't allowed to be addressed in a real sense, that's what got me. And there's a lot of issues we're not really, allowed to dig into. That was the big one at the time. And he went and said this that, it's kind of thing I would say in conversation. And I saw the backlash toward it, and I thought, well, let's be on the right side of this one, and let's push it as far as it goes. And that's what MAGA is now.
So are you happy with the direction that MAGA is going?
I'm very happy with MAGA, to be honest. I know there are problems. I'm not blind to them, and we share an opinion on a certain spicy issue. But overall, I think we should be very happy with the way things are going because having been around for the first round of this, we're doing things now that are inconceivable back in 2016, and progress has been made, and it's something to build on.
Okay, so you get involved with Trump, and then now the media reports of your arrest said that you were the founder of Proud Boys Hawaii.
That's accurate. Yes.
And I remember when I met you, there was another guy. I said to him, I never met a mutual friend of ours. I never met. I go, what are the Proud Boys? He had mentioned them. I said, I don't think I've ever met one of these guys. And all I knew is it had something to do with. I thought it had something to do with pornography, and it had um, a ritual that involved breakfast cereal, and I love breakfast cereal, so that stuck with me. That's all I knew, and I heard that they were racists, and so I'd asked this guy, yeah, I never met a Proud Boy. He said, well, yes, you have. You've met two. And I said, I've met two. He said, yeah, I'm a Proud Boy. And his girlfriend was Samoan. I said, so
Uh-huh.
I thought that's weird for a racist. And then he said, you were a Proud Boy. And I thought, well, it's one thing to be a white supremacist with a Samoan girlfriend, and it's a completely other thing to be a white supremacist with a black wife. That's not a very good white supremacist at all. So can you tell me what are the Proud Boys?
Sure. So everything you just referred to, what you heard about us, were the mainstream media memes about it, and we do frown on pornography. I certainly don't support it. I think it's bad for men and women in separate ways. And the racist thing is, mainly what it was known for. Of course, it's not a racist organization. It just was again on the wrong side of politics. So my wife is black, and if I were to be uh one of the key leaders in a racist group. I just don't think that's the way you go about it. I don't understand the accusation. Like I'm joining the Klan to sneak in by race mixing. It doesn't quite make sense, but it's caused a lot of problems in my life.
Yeah. Oh, being a Proud Boy member.
Well, the media reaction to it. I mean, I'm banned from every major bank, and everything that works in your phone doesn't work in mine. Stuff like that.
Still.
Oh yeah.
And if is it fair to say that the Proud Boys was more of a like a game, like a ruse, like you're just trolling the world?
There's a lot of trolling to it, and guys have backed away from that because at its heart, it's a drinking club like a Moose Lodge or something. But for Trump guys, and it's still that. It's good to get together with the boys and just have a few beers and be unbothered by things. That's the point. But also, it can quickly wreck your life because of what the media says about it. So keep that in mind. Maybe join the Mooses.
Yeah, join the Mooses and wear your MAGA hat at the Moose Lodge.
Right.
Probably a lot of the same conversations at the Moose Lodge and the Proud Boys meeting.
I'm sure it largely is.
Okay, so you were involved in the Hawaii Republican Party. You were running for Congress, right?
Yeah, well, the state level, just state
State
rep, and I
House.
did okay. My district is Waikiki, District 22 in Hawaii, and I got about a third of the vote, being myself, which I've always been fairly impressed by. I didn't back away from any issues, and I was completely censored. They pulled my TV debate, just xed out of Facebook, depersoned, without ever breaking any Facebook rules. That's how it goes. So without any of the actual ways to reach constituents, I did pretty well. What I ended up doing is the only thing I could afford for the campaign was a one mass mailer. So I put my real phone number on it. And I sent it out and I said, since my opponent won't debate me, and he wouldn't, or even say my name weirdly, please call me up and ask me any question you want so you can find out what I'm all about. And it went over well.
That's a great idea. Do you miss Hawaii?
I do. I love Hawaii. It's a fantastic state. The postcard doesn't lie. I didn't leave because I get hounded out for politics or whatever people might think. It's simply became too expensive to live for me.
Yeah, no, it's too expensive for pretty much everyone but Mark Zuckerberg to live.
Right.
Okay, so here you were. I'm just trying to lead up to J6. You're a Marine vet. Immigration's your issue. You found the Proud Boys in Hawaii? How did you find the Proud Boys in Hawaii?
Well, I made them. It didn't exist, and I went ahead and founded a chapter. That was in the early days. There were a lot of states without chapters, and it's good. They're the best boys in the world. We had some incredible times, and I think my chapter is still pretty legendary. In that world. But it made me a object of local scorn. Certainly, I was the only campus conservative at UH, and they did everything they could to kick me out and just run me out of town, but never was successful.
Okay, so you're running for office. You founded the Proud Boys Hawaii. You get involved with conservative media,
Yep.
and that's what leads you to Washington D.C. on January 6th.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I got out of the Marine Corps, and I'm self-trained and everything, basically. But I was the only youngish person that could do Photoshop, and so being a big fish in a small creative pond, I got pretty involved in conservative media in Hawaii. There's just not a lot of people hiring that, and I became somewhat known and got into that world and was in Con Inc. and things before I got blacklisted there, and I'm doing the media thing on my own since then.
Okay, and what were you blacklisted from Con Inc. for? Conservative Incorporated. Sorry.
Right. So I was working for an organization in Hawaii that got involved with CPAC, and they went to put on CPAC Korea for the first time. So I was flown out to Korea, and there were all kinds of problems. They had no name tags made for anybody to get into CPAC Korea the next day. And I was just up all night making these name tags, which is hard when you don't speak Korean. When you know which loop goes, right side up. Very few of them were upside down in the end. But I made sure that this event happened, and my boss is there very thankful. But in the midst of all this, I get a call and says, go to dinner with the VIPs. And I say, I'd rather not. I gotta finish these name tags, be up all night, but not go anyway. So I do, and I wasn't wearing a suit, uh, which I normally would to something like that. And I was sitting there, and there were, activists of all stripes. The Israeli activist was there. I really don't know why it's CPAC Korea, but it's always part of it. And she saw my Proud Boy tattoo uh, with my lack of sleeves, and she gave me a little quiz. You know what I mean? It was, what do you think of Israel? I said, I wish your country the best. I don't place it above any other country. The only country I have a special opinion of is America because that's my country. She said, okay, cool. And that wasn't the end of it. She went over to old Judge Janine and told her I was a Proud Boy and a political radical, and I need to be gone, which is exactly what happened the next day. And this wasn't a surprise to me. I knew at the time that I wasn't going to last in this world, but it was all the Conning guys, Matt Schlapp and the Fox News people, and ever since then I've been. It was just it was made clear to me that I was no longer welcome in that world. I mean, they walked me out of the building.
You know, CPAC seems to be there's only one non-negotiable issue, and that's you have to support anything and everything the state of Israel does. You don't have to support everything and anything the United States government does. My
Correct.
friend Eduardo Verastegi just had CPAC Mexico's, I think, revoked from him, in part because he was willing to allow speakers to criticize the state of Israel. So
Right,
hopefully,
and this was all much thicker back in, the late 2010s. It's you have some breathing room now, believe it or not, but back
oh no,
then,
I believe it. You know, look, 2 years ago when the war started and I began criticizing Israel, the amount of artillery that I was receiving was unbelievable everywhere. From every direction, artillery was coming on me. And then about a year into the war, I noticed the artillery was slowing down. And then eventually I noticed people were shooting at people shooting at me. I was like, hey,
yeah,
there's
incredible.
artillery, but it's going over my head at people shooting at me. That's awful nice. I guess it took a genocide to be live streamed for 24 months for people to finally wake up. But here you are as a young man, just saying, "Look, no, I'm America first." Now you're an evangelical Christian, yes?
No, I'm a Catholic.
But when I met you, you were evangelical, right?
No, when you met me, I'm sure I was an atheist.
Oh, okay. Maybe we'll get to how you became Catholic. So Christian Zionism never appealed to you as a young conservative. Never made sense to you.
No, that's definitely a Protestant thing, and I come from Middle America, I grew up with that. I never did like, some cultural aspects of that, and that being one of them. And it's just a strange thing to me. It doesn't make theological sense. It doesn't make sense in any level, but it's a very strong thing, but it's generational. People above age 40, or maybe a bit older than that, are very strongly of certain opinions, and I think it's just to do with programming what's been on TV for the last few decades. But everyone below 40 is not, and that's why I'm so strongly MAGA still, because this issue is going to be one of the big ones in the next election cycle, and you've already seen indications with JD Vance, and things are moving in the right direction. But it's mathematically impossible not to address because younger people are voting and older people are dying, and it's just not going to be the lock that CPAC has had on this particular talking point.
I think I was saying this to people kind of triumphantly when they were calling me and threatening me in the early days of the war, saying that I'll be here and there. I would be like, I'll be here, you won't be. You're only going to cancel yourself. That's all. The only power you have is to cancel yourself, and you're canceling yourself. A friend of mine asked me, who heard me spewing my rhetoric, if I believed what I was saying. And I said, only half of it. I only half believe it. But
Uh-huh.
I have to be my own drill sergeant and encourage, inspire me to run towards the bullets. But it seems like tragically um, the the genocide in Gaza may save the world from Zionism, but will the world save Gaza from the tragedy of Zionism? I think that's left to be seen. Okay, so where do you want to go, brother? I want to get to your book, your prison letters. Do you want to talk about what it was like to go through the legal process, to be, grilled by the FBI? Did you lose family and friends? Did your wife, being black, did her family and friends seize on this opportunity to say you've married a racist criminal? I mean, what happened?
Yeah, let's get into that because that's an interesting one. It's definitely hard to be black and married to a right wing extremist. Like it makes Thanksgivings more difficult on their end than mine, perhaps. Uh, People have known me for a while. I'm not going to surprise you with my opinions, so that's all worked itself out as far as my social life years ago. Uh, but yeah, people are surprised when they see me on TV, and oh, I'm Shauna's husband, and it doesn't go over quite as well in Philadelphia. You know what I mean? So you get things like DL Hughley posted on Facebook and Twitter. Black Twitter loves me. He put a fake picture up of a Klansman carrying a nude black woman and said, "This is a picture of Nick Ochs and his wife. It's really her. That was confiscated when the FBI raided his house." And so that's a lot to swallow. When you're not really in this world by choice, it's a lot.
No, your wife is a hero, and she stood by you. So, well, what was it like
Yes.
in those initial days? So after When did you realize after January 6th that the ball was going to bounce horribly for you? When did you realize? Because like, let me tell you, as my being there, and I was not kind of in the front of the Capitol because I had raced to the back where thought I was supposed to give a speech.
Yep.
And, until the chaos kind of erupted, I thought this was the most beautiful. I was never really a fan of MAGA, never really got MAGA. I'm conservative, and MAGA's not conservative, still is not conservative. I'm a Pat Buchanan kind of guy.
Sure, sure.
And to me, I see MAGA as like um, a chemotherapy treatment that, it's the poison that you
Fair,
use to kill
actually. Yeah.
cancer.
And that's fair. I get what you're saying completely.
Yeah, it's not orange juice. Like, it's not a wholesome thing, but it may be a necessary thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
Sam Brownback is wholesome, but he's going to do us no good right now. We need to like intravenously put poison into our veins as fast as possible. So that's kind of how I saw MAGA. So I was even not excited to speak at J6, right?
Mhm.
But I did because I could speak on the Uyghur genocide. But while I was there, I say that was the first time I got MAGA. I saw thousands of old Vietnamese guys
Yep.
with their Vietnamese flags. I saw Hong Kong flags as far as the eye could see. I saw all these Chinese. Never saw so many Latinos at a political event. I spoke at the January 5th event where there was that one guy from Utah who has to be a Fed. I don't know what that guy's story is. The guy that was encouraging everyone to commit crimes.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that guy, whoever that guy was. He was at the January 5th event, mouthing off insanity, and I wanted to slap him. But I was a little uncomfortable at the January 5th event because half of the speakers were LGBT. And I thought,
Yeah.
like, what kind of event am I at here? Like, but
Yeah.
but on January 6th, I was just really moved. I said, these are the deplorables across the ideological and political spectrum. These are Latinos who came here legally that are frustrated that others skip the line and then have to compete with them for jobs, or that Wedos hire illegals to compete with their businesses that are legitimate.
It's
You see the Vietnamese who are veterans who fought along the United States who felt betrayed by our federal government. You saw the Uyghurs. I said, this is all of America that deserves to be represented. And Trump is trying to give every nook and cranny of America a voice. That's what I saw on January 6th until the chaos erupted. What did you see?
I mean, that's what it is. It's a beautiful weaving of grievances. It's populism. It's what Trump did is he took the Republican Party and he turned it into a populist third party. There really isn't a Republican Party anymore. That's what changed. And now the Democrats are going to have to, and I think probably will undergo something similar because they're not going to exist in their present state. They're losing to this new thing. What do they have? They're still talking about January 6th. So it's a beautiful thing, and when I was there too, we didn't get a lot of good footage before any incident started. I remember we talked to some nice Chinese ladies, and there were so many people there that the live stream didn't go out at the time because it was just the cell phone network was full, and thank God because these kind old Chinese ladies were just fed posting, and it probably avoided some more trouble for myself and everybody else. But we walked on past then, the crowd started to move. I didn't know this, but I guess they'd been told, move down toward the Capitol building. And we just were having fun with it because I've really been a bit separate from the rest of the J6 community in that I didn't go there to demonstrate. I'd long since stopped believing in that, still don't. It doesn't change anything. Uh, I was there to cover it, and the sadness had set in. You know what I mean? We were losing, and I think that it was dawning on people. And I was never under the impression that if Mike Pence says this or that on the floor, it's going to save the day. That was never an option. If the Supreme Court didn't take the issue and slam dunk it for Trump, he was never going to come on top in that election legally. Now he won, but you understand what I'm saying. So we were there trying to have a bit of fun at a bad time, and that's exactly what we did. We were singing on the street and some funny footage, and much like yourself, we just had to use the bathroom eventually. But the Porta John lines had come out for just across the city. We decided to skip that, and since the pardon covers the entire day, we peed on another federal building. I started moving again, which placed us at the front of the crowd, which was not so legally advantageous. Walked up to the building. The cops immediately just went hard on these baby boomers, and the baby boomers were not expecting that. They said, "Ah, you're supposed to be on our side," and I tried to tell them, "Hey, that's not a thing." And they got the crowd riled up. It was an angry dad reaction. That's what really flipped
So
that day.
you say J6 was just boomer dads being mistreated and were shocked.
Yeah, the steam valve popped off. A massive crowd of people with absolutely legitimate complaints and no way to address them in the legal system, in the media, on Facebook where you get banned for bitching, anywhere. These people had no way to yell at the people that were doing it to them. And then suddenly the people that were doing it to them were throwing flashbangs and chemical spray in their faces when all they were doing is waving their signs. And man, that didn't go over well because they knew that it wouldn't happen to a BLM protest. Not in the first daylight hours of it. Not till they set something on fire. Right? These people were behaving, and they got tear gas for it, and
Oh,
that's when some barriers got knocked down.
hold that point because I want to get to that. So um, I want to get to Black Lives Matter. When I was walking on the Supreme Court side of the Capitol to find the stage for the second round of speeches, but there was no stage set up. It wasn't there, even though there was a permit and we were all expected to go there. It was never set up. But I was on the right side of the barriers, but walking along the barrier. The barrier had been kicked over. I just don't like following crowds. You can see in Nick Cersei's documentary where I'm like 20 feet away from it and I watch it get kicked over. And I'm like, oh, that will be a shortcut to try to find the stage. But then I thought, I don't want to be around all these people. So I just kind of walked around on the right side of the barrier. It was still during COVID. I'm like, yeah, I mean, if I don't need to be in the midst of a throng of people, I won't be. And as I'm walking along, talk about boomer dad reaction, the right side of the barrier, for no reason, a police officer, and I'm wearing a camel hair jacket and a suit.
Uh,
ProPublica had thousands of pages on me. They were trying to find out who VIP Camel was because I
yeah.
had a VIP badge. So they were like, who is VIP Camel? And you can see on the video, and I wonder if this is why I never got questioned. You can see on the video him just reaching across the barrier for no reason and just hitting me
Uh-huh.
with a club for just no reason. And he just kept walking. And
So
it
that's
made
not
me,
police SOP. They have a way they're supposed to do this to diffuse any happenings, and that just wasn't done.
yeah,
From the
hitting
first
a
moments it
six
was
foot two,
placed.
240-pound guy
Yeah.
with a stick probably isn't the best way to diffuse a situation.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is this is what was happening everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was again up front, not in very first guys, but or anything, but enough to see everything that was going on, and the crowd was very much set off by the cops, and it just didn't need to be that way.
So there's a lot of people that say that there are all these FBI informants instigating violence. What I think, I find that hard to believe, but I could be
Yeah.
naive. I just think when
Mm.
you have that many people, there's going to be a lot of people that are informants for the feds, one place or another.
Yeah,
One
and if
way
you have that many people, there's gonna be people that act out and do wild things. I mean, my wildest moment was I smoked a Marlboro in Congress, which is not subtle, but I don't think that damaging.
and you got
Uh,
5 years in prison for that,
but yeah, yep,
for smoking a Marlboro.
yeah. And really, I mean, I was punished for not cooperating. They, they, I could have, testified against the big Proud Boy case, the other 4 or 5 guys that got wrapped up, who they considered on the leadership together and stuff like that. I was looking at 20 years, like it was really you had to roll the dice on this one. You know what I mean? So I feel like I was lucky to get I know I was lucky to get my 4. My lawyer always told me, "Oh, look, it's inflated trespassing charge. On a bad day, you're going to get 8 months." I said, "No, they're going to give me years." He's like, "Shut up! I know the law." I said, "I know politics, and this is a political matter. It's not a legal matter." And I've been correct on that.
And not a lot has scared me, but I was really afraid when I heard what happened to you. I called your lawyer's office and my wife, I told my wife I was going to do this. And she said, honey, do not do this. You don't need the scrutiny. And I said, no, I feel I have to do it. And I called your lawyer and said, like, listen, we were planning on getting Thai Stoop. Like your client wasn't there to overthrow the government. And I had never heard from him. I don't know if our texts back and forth could have helped. I guess the feds already had all of our texts back and forth.
Probably.
I was just watching a documentary from a couple years ago, and the way they tried to spin the activity of those who were arrested, they're like, they were eating tacos hours before. They're such cold-blooded criminals that they could eat tacos before launching an overthrow of the U.S. government. Or maybe they were eating tacos on their way to a rally.
It's and same thing. I had my pizza. I was in there for 32 minutes or something, according to my paperwork. Left and got pizza and a beer. Sorry, I stood you up on the faux, but this is how things go when there's confusing day. And that it it's plainly like if I tried to take over a building, like you'd know it. You know what I mean? I'll say that much about myself. That it
Well, you
just
were Marine.
wasn't it.
Were you infantry? I was infantry. Like,
Yes, I was.
you'd know it. You would know
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And no one else was trying either. It's just wasn't the thing. It was just, and I know the moment I decided to go in, I crossed a certain line, but that line is a $48 fine and a trespassing charge that gets dropped within 3 days. That's what it's always been, with much more serious incursions that do exist in
There
recent
were
times in
Antifa
the same
guys that
building.
got caught trying to derail trains that got 30-day suspended sentences.
Yeah, incredible. The things that happen in Portland, and also it may seem funny, but using that example, I've been in worse riots. It wasn't that concerning to me. I didn't feel that out of place. Like I've been hit with real explosives in Portland. Forget flashbangs. You know what I mean? It wasn't my most stressful day. So there was a sort of a false sense of complacency about that. The legality was the issue, not anything else.
To that point, I had gone undercover in several Antifa and BLM events where I would happen to be in the city at the time, and I would go to like Target or TJ Maxx and buy black sweatpants, black hoodies, black gloves, and I ran around just trying to witness and observe, and it was hell on earth, horrifying. I was there the day in
They're
D.C. where
very
they tried to set
organized.
the church on fire, and I was staying in DuPont Circle, a conservative activist. I said, let's see what's going on. And so, to your point, J6 seems so tame to me compared to what I had seen just going undercover to just, out of my own curiosity to witness these BLM events. But I want to go back to the BLM events. A friend of mine who I adore, she was a big BLM activist. She was at every event in LA. And I would message her and beg her to go home, that it's not safe, that these people are crazy, that they're terrorists, that they're criminals. And she would message me, Jason, you're just seeing the media portrayal of it all. And she's black. She'd say, the angry white kids from the suburbs come in when the sun sets. But during the
That's
day,
true,
it's like a
actually.
barbecue. It's just black families. We're singing, we're dancing. It's positive. And then the kids with the skateboards and the backpacks come in at night, and that's when we leave. And she said, so don't worry about me. I leave when I see the white kids with skateboards and hoodies coming. Um, and when I was at J6, I was posting, and she called me crying, begging me, go home. They're dangerous. They're terrorists. These are horrible people, and get out of there. And I said, no, it's like a Barbie. It's like before it got bad, I'm like, it's wonderful. And she had been seeing things on TV that I couldn't see yet because I hadn't made it that close to
Yeah.
the Capitol yet. And then, when I got to the Capitol, I began to see more. But here's my point. Do you think a lot of um, the way we have perceived BLM and the BLM events and the way the violence erupted at the BLM events, it was similar to what had happened on J6, that both sides are kind of being played by the establishment to incite fear?
I
Or
think
do
it's a
you
bit
think
different. I
it's
mean,
more
the
organic
BLM thing you're referring
violence?
to, it's there's a real phenomenon. There's black BLM, and then there's the DSA, Democratic Social of America kids who show up and provide a bit of organization and direction, like in the direction of Best Buy and the police precinct. And I think it's been out of control at night. Like that. That is an absolutely a thing. I don't think there's really an equivalent on the right for that.
Okay, so you're saying, like what my friend was saying is kind of true. There's black BLM, which are just families and churches going down there to do their thing. And then there's the Democratic Socialists of America, trying to harness this for violence and grievances.
Yeah, and that's not to take, there's plenty of black rioters, but there's a reason that there's a switch over that seems to happen. Like I know what she's referring to, and this depends per city, and this depends per time frame. But things were really really wild for a while. Let's not forget the Summer of Love.
Oh no. Well, I will tell you, did you witness BLM when it came to Hawaii?
I never really got this. I know they blocked a road once, kind of haphazardly, but they just don't have the culture there to make
Oh,
real
can I tell
trouble.
you
Is
what
what I'm saying.
happened? I witnessed it. I went down there because I wanted to protect our monuments, right?
Yep.
So who knows what these lunatics were going to do? So I went down there by myself and parked my truck and ran over to where the event was, and it was hysterical actually because you had all these sincere locals marching alongside the agitators.
Yep.
And when the agitators would litter or seek to like do vandalism, there'd be some big local guy in their crowd going, "Hey, brother, you like me break your face, Rob? Put that down." And
I
I
can see that
thought,
being the case.
huh?
But they always talked about, taking monuments down there. It just didn't seem to have the inertia to make it happen. Because I'd see the Facebook posts. They often mentioned myself, and like, well, we're going to tear down Captain Cook and make the Proud Boys cry, or we're not that invested in your own infrastructure. It's if you want to wreck your town, like we're not going to stop you.
But none of the
But
locals, it didn't seem that there was any local motivation to damage
it's a
property.
college thing, and a lot of UH is, like, it's just California rich kids, from, 97% white neighborhoods whose parents send in Hawaii for vacation college, and that provides a certain, type of liberalism.
I will tell you, I was, as a poli sci major, and I founded the Young Americans for Freedom at UH at the time, YAF, and was chairman of the college Republicans and Young Republicans at the time. And you're right, like a lot of the Howley students, the white students from the mainland, um, were rich kids with horrible SAT scores.
Yeah.
And their parents sent them to the University of Hawaii. Hawaii Pacific University, where I went to graduate school, was rich kids from Sweden and Norway,
That's
right?
different then, yeah.
Yeah, who just wanted to surf and get a master's degree or something like that. So it's a unique college experience. It's harder to radicalize those kids, right?
I could definitely see it being difficult, yeah.
So, all right. So, like you've been to riots before, you've been to worse events before. When did you realize you were going to go to prison?
So, the FBI never raided my house despite what D.L. Hughley says, but I got off the airplane, I flew back to, Hawaii. And FBI standard operating procedure is to grab you when you get your bag. So I guess there's no mistakes, which is what they did to me. And I'd been on my phone from the airplane to the baggage claim. It took a while. I wasn't in any rush. I like to let the crowds dissipate and get my bag when it's alone, stuff the usual. And COVID checkpoints takes forever in Hawaii. So I'm talking to people, and they're like, "Oh, it's a big deal." I say, "Yeah, I know it's hit the news. I'll edit my footage shortly and surf that wave." They say, "Well, do you think you're gonna be arrested?" And I'd say, "Nah, I could see it, but I didn't do anything." You know what I mean? So I'm not the one. And then I immediately got arrested. Uh, I was thrown in solitary in I think a high security facility. I'm not really sure even to this day. Uh, for a week on a trespassing charge. Really, I was only charged with trespassing then, and that was not normal. And you have to sweat it out. You know what I mean? I sit in that cell and nobody talked to me. No lawyer contact. No nothing. Uh, am I getting 50 years? Like I knew that it'd become a media meme. It was something. It was rolling, and I know how things work politically. I didn't know if I'd ever see my kids again, and that was rough. You get out, and it's not really any better. Like as I said, 20 years is a real possibility.
So you didn't think you were really in trouble until you were being handcuffed.
Nah, why would I? This stuff happens in DC. It just doesn't happen from our side, and that, of course, it obviously, like I should have seen that coming, but in the moment, I was there to cover a news event, and that's what I did.
Yeah, I have to say that I immediately thought I was going to be arrested. So what I did was I didn't want my family to be scandalized or horrified. So I just jumped in my car, and my sister needed to go to Mississippi. I'm in Texas. I'm like, "I'll drive you."
Uh-huh.
And I'm posting on Facebook the whole way so the FBI can get me in a hotel, you know?
Yeah, sure.
And then I go grab my sister. and we're driving. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to get arrested. And I still wasn't that worried. I'm like, it'll be 3 months, whatever. Who cares? It'll be an experience. But I just didn't want my children, because there were already news reports in the first couple of days where they were blowing up doors and SWAT was like flowing in people's houses. Yeah, to this day, I don't know why. I mean, I was communicating with you, Alex Jones, Steve Bannon, Ali Alexander. Not too many people were probably texting all of those guys simultaneously. So I don't know why I never even got so much as a Heidi Ho.
Some people just scrape by. You're not the only one that questions like why. It's a large bureaucratic event, and there is sloppiness. Like it is what it is. I mean, I know I got grabbed up first. I had a semi-iconic photo of me and the cigarette.
I think that
Okay.
was it. Yeah, that
Yeah, I
photo
was
was
first on
iconic.
CNN. They said, white nationalists, terrorists, super soldiers, here they are, and they've got cigarettes. Like that was my face. That was within the first hours of that
Former
thing.
Marine.
Yeah.
How did the media deal with your wife and your kids?
They they don't know what to do with it because obviously it kills the case. Like I was effectively being tried for being racist. That's just what the media is, but that you can't make something of that. So the only people that really dwelled on it was again Black Twitter, like they full on. They're astounded because if you put my name in Twitter, you're going to see that they think I'm in the Klan, and she's
Black
fully
Twitter
on board.
thinks you're in the Klan.
Yeah,
Because Black Twitter
like
could be
the
cooler than
literal
white
Klan. They think
Twitter.
I dress up like a Klansman in my house, which I like. It's on a hanger somewhere. Like there's a picture. Like go look it up. You're gonna find it. It's hilarious. It's
No.
clearly from a novelty calendar in I think the early '70s, but it's in black and white as I recall. Not me, but this is you can't make this clear to no.
I had called Ali Alexander at the time. I didn't really know Ali. He was the founder of the Stop the Steal event. And if you remember, they made him out to be like Tim McVeigh.
Yeah.
Here's a half black, half Arab kid. And they're out making it. And I didn't know him, but I mean, we had talked. And when he asked me to speak at his event, I had asked if I could address the Uyghur genocide. And Ali said, no problem. And there was an event a month earlier that said I couldn't, that it was a
Yeah. Yeah.
Judeo-Christian event. You can't speak on the Uyghur genocide. They're Muslims. And that really offended me. As a Christian, I think I can speak on the oppression of any people as a Christian, but whatever. So when Ali let me do that, he really won a place in my heart. And I remember after January 6th, a mutual friend of ours, someone that was really close to Ali, told me he's cut Ali off. He's not returning his calls. He said, I don't want the FBI coming after me. And I said, yeah, but don't you think the guy's going to kill himself? Like, this guy could slit his own wrists, man. Like, he's your friend. Like, you should reach out to him. And then I just made it my mission. I called Ali every day from like January 9th on.
Well, that's something I've always admired about you, and I've seen it because the Uyghur thing and all that. You've been into issues that are clearly not chosen based on popularity or career moves. Let me say in this right wing sphere, conservative sphere, more accurately. It's it's not made your life easier. I've always seen it about you. I've always liked that, and you have always been completely decent to me when it's never been advantageous. Like that's not lost because let's just say the Republican Party who used to call me and so my boys to do security for their events. Well, they're not known for paying anybody's bail. You know what I mean? And then I get denounced and all this instantly. Blah blah blah. Uh, there's some that it never came from, and you were always that guy. And I just want to send my personal thanks to you.
Well, brother, it's a privilege. I think that's our role as a Christian, right? I have a friend who's a big movie star, and he's like, he yelled at me once. He goes, Hermano, you never call me anymore. I said, bro, your career's going amazing. Like, why would I call you? You have all the friends in the world right now.
Yeah.
When you get caught in a scandal or your career tanks and everyone leaves you, I'll be back. Don't worry. That's going to happen. I'll be back. And I always think that that's how I want to share my faith with the world. And I thought, what's the best way as a young man, when I was a young atheist becoming a Christian, I thought, what is the best way to share my faith in Jesus Christ with the world? And it's like, well, to kiss lepers and kneel next to the woman caught in the act of adultery, like stand with those the world won't stand with when it comes at a cost. And then that will show the world the sincerity of your faith and point to God. So that's why I do it. Trust me, with you, brother, I did not want to call you. I did not want to call your lawyer. I did not want to call Ali every day. I had a lot of important work I was doing. I'll never forget the one time I was most afraid that I was going to get arrested is when, now we're talking August, September, after the riots. I was heavily involved in evacuating our Afghan allies. And we had set up the most effective overland evacuation route in the world. And I was running it. And then there had been a rash of new arrests around those weeks and months, like of the busy days of the evacuation. And I remember thinking, if they come here and take me out of this house, 1,000 people are going to die. And I was just so scared. And I would just pray to God, please, God, I don't care if I get 20 years in prison. Can they just wait till we're done setting up our evacuation routes?
Yeah.
But by God's grace, but you said, so you got, I want to go back to, I want to get when you went into prison, were you a Christian?
Yes, I was. I was newly minted Catholic in the official sense then.
Oh,
Yep.
so you'd already entered the church before going into prison.
Yeah, it was not a jailhouse conversion.
I know you
The
told
reason,
me this before, and I apologize for getting, so
yeah,
y- when did your conversion begin, or what led you on it?
it's independent from politics or personal struggles. Really, what led me to the church is an understanding uh, that it's real in the historical and physical sense. Uh, as I said, I was an atheist, and that I was born of pure rationality. I'm still a very rational person. And from that point of view, I mean, I had Richard Dawkins books, whole 9 yards. It's all religion is to be dismissed instantly because it just doesn't work in the physical universe. Uh, and I began to reconsider it. I had to keep an open mind. Every so often, I'll just open my mind to everything, and to check thyself before you wreck thyself. And it's not incompatible with history, and it's not incompatible with what's real. In fact, it is history, and it is what's real, and that's why I'm Christian and specifically a Catholic.
Now, how do you think your prison experience would have been different if you were still an atheist?
I would have been a lot rougher. I mean, if you're an atheist, all you got is a clock ticking down, and it's a pessimistic philosophy, which is something I think I would have said at the time. Uh, it's it's not something you really want to land on, but it's what I truly believed in. So yeah, as an atheist, you're just suffering and you're losing time off that clock, and you're not getting it back, and you're not really gaining anything from it. As a Christian and as a Catholic, we know a thing or two about suffering and how we should do it and where we should direct our thoughts and prayers as that goes on. Uh, it would have been a waste of time as an atheist, and it was not as a Catholic.
Yeah, one of the things I've always thought about the day I go to prison, I've been to jail, but never prison. But when I go, I always thought, well, prison will give me an opportunity to learn a lot about myself, about man and God and the world. What did you learn about yourself, about your fellow man, about God, about the world? What did you learn in prison that you would have never learned if you didn't go?
Well, I got to really go through the entire Catholic section of the prison library, which is nice. I mean, I'm reading things, I'm studying the faith, I'm learning more about history, I'm learning more about miracles, and I incorruptible bodies of some saints. I didn't know about any of this before. This is incredible stuff, and it's something I would not have had the time to receive that education in otherwise. It came at the right time, as I said. I was new to the church, still am really, and we also weren't forgotten about in there. A priest would come as often as he could for occasional mass, and even got to give confession in there, and it was important.
Did you learn anything about yourself that you didn't know?
Maybe not. You do have time to think, but it's
Like, no.
you you don't
Now, let
you're
me ask you this. As a
self-reflecting, of
Marine,
course.
did you learn something about yourself as a Marine? What did being a Marine teach you about yourself?
It taught me that I probably shouldn't have stuck around for another enlistment. I don't think that was it wasn't going to be a career for me. That's correct. But it's I've never really have had too much of an easy life. I don't know if I'd even like one. But the Marine Corps is not an easy life, and prison is not an easy life. And maybe if I make a bunch of money this year and learn to relax a bit, I can contrast the two things. But I've always had risk has been a presence for me, and it's hard to think of a way that wouldn't be. You know what I mean? So this is the kind of thing I do think about a lot, and I'd like to stop rolling the dice, but I'm not backing away from anything yet.
So, do you think the Marines help prepare you in some way that made prison easier?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I can sleep on the ground. You know what I mean? It there's a lot of guys in prison who are pretty damn soft, to be honest. And it's easier when you're not.
It's funny, when I got out of the army, I put on my resume, like, job skills or skills you have. I put I can sleep in the mud.
Yeah,
That's
and
all the
it's
military taught me, is it taught me how to sleep in the mud. So if
well, you
you're
know what?
hired
I'll
for
say
good
this:
reason.
it taught me a few bureaucratic tricks. When I was in boot camp, I broke my leg. I ended up in Marine Corps boot camp for 8 months. They didn't let you leave, and that's unpleasant. So what I ended up doing is pretending to be Jewish because it came with some very concrete benefits. You could walk out on a Saturday night and go to services, which walking alone in boot camp is unheard of. Other recruits would salute you, and you get donuts sometimes, write some extra letters home, things like this. It worked out very well, and I even took a little Jew in training. He was about as black as night, but I taught him some Hebrew that I'd picked up that didn't make any sense, and they bought it from there. You know what I mean? So when I got to prison, I pretended to do the same thing, and the benefits were much
Oh,
more
wait, you
immense.
pretended to be Jewish in prison?
Oh, yeah, and when
So you
because it
have
was
a
for the
a
food.
proud boy Catholic married to a black woman pretending to be a Jew in prison. Dude, someone's gonna buy your life rights. I mean, this is a movie,
Maybe. I invite you
but
to
I
check
would
out the
just don't know
book.
how the prison guards are letting you get away with this. So,
Well, that's the thing, they didn't let me get I was not a favored inmate, let's say that they did some really terrible things to me. I was mm, but when you start to pretend to be Jewish, some cops will actually back off for, fear of being sued or getting, the Jewish advocacy groups, which are, known in prison, on their case, which was nice,
yeah,
but
but then they
mainly it
go,
was for the
"Dude, you're a
food.
proud boy. Check it." It
Th
didn't work. They
we
they fell for it?
Yeah, 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 I mean, they don't know, there's Jewish Proud Boys, one's a friend of mine, but,
There you go.
it you get covered
You
TV
guys are
dinners
an
as a Jew in
awfully
prison,
horrible
that's
racist.
amazing.
I'm
Like,
gonna give
I
you
had
guys the Jason Jones Show's worst racist anti-Semitic organization of the year award goes to the Proud Boys.
I'm
Yes,
glad to
Jewish
accept.
members, mixed race couples. This is awful. I don't know what you guys are doing over there. Okay. So you're in prison, you're pretending to be Jewish. So you
Yeah,
get kosher food. I guess that's better. Is that better? Was the food
yep.
better?
No, it is kosher food, and it comes covered and separate, and there's actually, like, little, chicken wings with the bone in them. Unbelievable stuff, you know what I mean? But eventually, they de-Jewed me in front of the entire, cafeteria because 'cause I'd get my kosher meal, and then I'd go get, like, the rest of the food too, because it was hard to keep your weight up in there.
You have your
It's
kosher
really hard to
meal,
get enough to eat
and then you have like
sometimes.
a plate of bacon.
Yeah,
Look,
basically,
I'm
yeah.
kosher, but I'm not an extremist about it.
Well, they would get the idea if I had my kosher meal in front of me, I do the sign of the cross, and I think some of them caught on, with my meal prayers, but they took out like, Schindler's List and made a big production of crossing my name off it in front of everybody to deny me my food from then on out. They got tired of
They
my
should
antics.
become Muslim so you could have halal food.
I was cool with the Muslims, yeah, we got along fine.
All right. So how many times were you in solitary confinement?
I don't know, because it was always, like, different things. I was in solitary for trespassing. That was an event. When I first got there, I was in solitary for not getting, the shot, and then you get out, you go to general population. I was in solitary 2 more times for getting COVID, which is no place to have COVID, and then the stretch I did in solitary was, when I was in trouble, I got accused of attempting to murder the warden and take over the entire prison.
Yeah, I'd heard about that. Okay, explain that to me.
Well, no one believed it, and I got back from the prison library. I was always on the prison typewriters all day. That's, helping guys with their legal work and whatnot. I got some time off. I was good at what I did. And
And you say typewriter, you mean it's a typewriter.
no, an actual, not a word processor,
So you guys don't even have
typewriter.
word processors.
No, because a lot of guys aren't allowed to use like anything. You can't get to the internet in prison, but even like the prison email, because their court stipulations, they can't have the internet. They can't use that and stuff like that. And it's just they're from the '80s. They barely work. They could put word processors to Word if they didn't plug them in, but this prison doesn't. A lot of prisons don't. So you're doing legal motions, like legit, 40, 50 page legal motions on a typewriter, and it can be done.
Without whiteout?
If you can, I had a source for whiteout in the prison factory. He would steal that for me at great expense to myself.
Oh, there you have it. I think whiteout would be
Yeah.
necessary. See, most people of your generation don't understand the importance of whiteout.
Yeah, well, there's a lot, especially when you're dealing with, you know, people's fates and your own fate in prison. It depends on what you slap out in that typewriter. It's a real thing. But then I was walking back, and I was walking back early because they did a yard recall at an odd time, which means there's probably a lockdown coming. So here we go again, and they found a knife or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Uh, and they stopped me at the entrance to my unit. Say, you know, some people want to talk to you. I say, does this have anything to do with the sudden yard recall? They say, oh, we can't talk about that. So I say, something's afoot. Uh, I start walking toward the SIS cops. That's like the real cops of the place, are the ones that try to find cell phones and whatnot. And they're all waiting outside in the yard. There's a squadron. I say, what is this, man? Is everything all right? And they say, well, it's not good. Say, okay. Totally mystified. Like this, I'm a very quiet inmate. They hassle me, but I'm known not to act out. I'm not that guy. So they take me in and they say, well, we've received some information that you're planning to murder the warden and take over the entire compound. And I say, I remember verbatim, I said, you know, that's retarded, right? And the one cop next to me says, yeah, I do. And the other one was very serious. And they say, well, all right. So we've all established the retardation in progress. Can I go back to my unit now? They say, no, no, you can't. I was kept for well over a month in the disciplinary cell, the medium security. They upped me in security. And I ended up losing, I think, 28 pounds, which is a lot for me. The
Yeah.
problem is it's so cold in the room, and they didn't give me a blanket. They did most of a blanket. It was highly unraveled. They didn't give me a mattress. So you're sitting on this cold steel, and they blow really cold air through the vent when they bitch at you for putting paper mache up there to try to save your life. And you don't get enough food. So you're losing pounds every day. Like it's a really serious event. I mean, I'm like, I'm emaciated. Like I don't look good, and I'm wasting away in here. And when I say solitary and disciplinary, you do have a celly, which was one was good, one was bad, but that's that's how it works. So you can't shave. You only have nair, so you don't kill yourself with a blade. You get a little rubbery pin if you're lucky to write with, which I did have the pin,
See, they
but they
give
wouldn't give me a
you
stamp to
air.
send a letter.
They,
Yeah, you can't shave. Like you just
so
grow
does
out, but you have
Nair
to rub
work on
nail on your
your face?
face and burn your skin to get the hair off if you want to attempt to shave. That's all you get.
That's amazing. That's
Harder to kill
absolutely,
yourself with nair.
yeah.
And I was just
On
thrown
that
away
note,
in there. Obviously false charges.
as someone who's been in prison and been in solitary confinement, do you believe that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself? Is that possible?
I don't believe he did. No, I'm not buying that. No, his cellmate and all that is very questionable. But that's all they do in that wing is the cops walk by every 30 minutes to make sure you're still alive. That's their only responsibility.
Yeah. And so you've got this guy and he died and he basically hung himself with toilet paper and broke his neck.
Yeah, and yeah, it
So as a
well.
guy that's been in a similar situation, you don't see how that's even plausible.
I mean, you can hang yourself. What they do is like the hook for the towel goes into the wall, so you can't hang something on it. But you could take your undies or half a blanket or whatever, and you could kill yourself. And whoever killed him may have used that to kill him with, but I don't believe he killed himself. No, but the way it was done is
Yeah, I
not
thought they
impossible.
said he
100%.
hung himself with very thin, like when you go to the bathroom in an airport and they have the thing you cover the toilet seats with?
Yeah.
They claim that they gave him a sheet like that to cover himself when he slept, and that's what he somehow was able to hang himself with. I thought that was the claim.
Well, you do get a blanket, but what you don't get is enough to stay warm, so you have to hide your clothes and, try to scam extra socks and stuff because they only give you a very small amount. So, "Oh, you didn't issue me this, you didn't issue me that." They didn't issue me a mattress. You don't get a pillow to start with ever, and you have to make a wad of clothes so you don't break your neck for a month, stuff like that. It's always a back and forth, but
Did
you could get enough socks to kill yourself.
Now, did you think of, like, did solitary and confinement, did you grow closer to God, or did you feel despair? You must have gone through all the emotions and
Yeah, because there's so nothing, like, it's a reset of your brain, whereas we're out here and we scroll through our phone all day, it's the opposite of that. You'll you have what's called fishing. At the bottom of the door, there's a crack, maybe so big, so you can fit half a book out of it, and try to trade those back cell to cell. If you look out the window, there's a whole ecosystem of just threads carrying notes and drugs and lit toilet paper wicks and half books and manila folders, wherever that came from. This very lively trade between all the cells, until the cop walks by every 30 minutes. They'll pull back and then goes out. You're talking, you're trading, you getting what you can get, and that's the least lonely part of solitary. But it's loud. I mean, the people will be on the door rapping or whatever, and it's a bit much.
so did you ever question your faith or feel despair, despondent?
Yeah, I mean, not my faith, no, but despair and despondence are common emotions. Like it's my whole thing was prison was harder for me because I never knew the answer. I was always fighting my case, and I won it. Somebody won on my charge in the Supreme Court, and they still kept me an extra 5 months. Like
I remember
things are
that. I
not
remember
normal.
being so excited. I called Shauna and said, "Nick will be coming home soon, huh?" And she's like, "Ah, we don't know."
Yeah, I should have been out the next day, but and my judge was the most hostile. But it wasn't normal, and if you had a number of days you knew you were gonna do, it would've been a lot easier, honestly, but there was always the possibility you get out tomorrow, but you knew it wasn't gonna happen at the same time, and then I got out tomorrow, and then I wasn't. They just said, "Nah, they just we're keeping you. Like, you're innocent, you're sure 5 more months," like, that's those days are longer. Do you know what I mean?
How about this as a conservative? We as conservatives are like people think of us as the law and order people, the law and order party, and tough on crime. Being in prison, did it kind of open your eyes to some sort of reforms we need in the judicial system and especially in our prison systems?
Well, of course, you see how bad it is, but I've always had a soft spot in my heart for prisoners. Like it's, I've been into this, and if you look back, and it's a bit rich, but the original Proud Boy tenets, one of them is abolish prison. Okay, maybe not quite that much, but the point to take is we care. It's something we care about, and I'm not someone who didn't know guys who went to prison before all this, even though I'd never been. You know what I mean? And there's not always 2 sides to the story, but there's a lot of good dudes in prison too. Like there's good dudes, and I keep in touch with some of them. I mean, I passed out business cards while I was in. Let's see if I got one here. Yeah, look at this.
I loved in your book where you talked about how, like, just because someone's not well educated doesn't mean they're not brilliant, something like that.
Well, that was in the approach to crime. These guys who can't read can be uniquely successful people in the enterprise that they did have. I mean,
Workarounds, you said there. What did you say? They're like experts in workarounds.
they are. That's what crime is. It's a shorter path to the same thing, and that's all anybody's in there for. Chomos aside, but I'm talking about real drug dealing, car thieving criminals. It's not
What did you
for
say
love of
aside?
breaking
I
the
didn't hear
rules.
what you said aside.
The chomos, that there were a lot of child molesters
Oh yeah,
at
yeah.
my facility, of course. So that's
Oh yeah, yeah.
we're when I talk about criminals and the people I was okay with in there, that's
Yeah.
not them. Yeah,
Got you, got you.
but
Yeah, you're talking about the guys that are just, you said there are a lot of good guys in prison. There are a lot of good guys that did bad things because they came from challenging circumstances, right? I met a young woman in death row in Texas who'd been prostituted since she was 9.
right.
And at 22, a John broke a vase over her head and she stabbed him 98 times with a turkey knife. And because she committed a homicide while in the commission of a felony, the state of Texas had no choice but to give her the death penalty. I guess that's the rules here.
Yeah.
And so obviously she did something horrible, but her life had been a series of horrendous experiences from the time she was 9 years old to the time she
Well,
committed that
that's
crime.
what gets people is so I know one guy in prison. He's still at the same prison, doing 28 years. He's stone cold innocent. He didn't do it. He was not involved in the crime.
And and you believe him.
100 is the only one, but he didn't do it. That's bad. We can all agree that's bad. He's I think his last appeal died recently. Like he's gonna stay. It's horrible. But mostly it's guys who are maybe adjacent to something, but what happened to them legally shouldn't have happened to them. A lot of it's the fentanyl laws. When somebody dies of a fent overdose, they go through the dead guy's phone. They basically take the last text that he sent and they pluck that guy up and give him the equivalent of a attempted murder charge. Like, oh, you sold him the fent. But man, they're not accurate with that. I'll tell you that. Like, there's guys that sold fent in there and they're pretty open about it. And there's guys that were doing drugs and are suddenly doing 15, 20 years. That's a real thing. They're not in there for doing drugs. They're in there
Yeah,
for
there was
selling. They're not the guy.
there was a gentleman I hired to do some work for me, kind of construction work, and um, I knew right away that my wife didn't. I go, honey, he's an ex-con, and she's like, how can you be so sure? I'm like, I'm sure. And so I took him aside and I'd asked him what he went to prison for, and he's like, how could you know? And I'm like, I mean, you're too respectful to me.
Yeah.
You're older than
No,
me, and you
people
call me
don't
sir.
know how polite you have to be. If you're walking through the hallway and
Yeah.
you don't bump into somebody, you're still saying "excuse me" because
Yes.
that diffuses. There's no honor lost. There's no stabbing about to happen. Like it's hyper polite. You
Excuse me.
wash your
Yes,
hands
sir.
every
No,
time you take a
sir.
pee.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna. You know what I mean? People don't get this side of things.
Yeah.
They
But
go,
this poor guy had gone to prison for 9 years. He opened up with me. I said, what did you go to prison for? And he like was a little shocked that I could figure that out. And I said, hey, look, no judgment. I got close family members in prison right now. You're around my family. And he said, basically he was a drug addict and he couriered drugs for a drug dealer in exchange for drugs. And that got him 9 years in prison.
that'll do it.
Yeah. It's quite sorrowful. It's quite sorrowful.
Uh, A lot of it's extra charges, like 922 charges. Some guy is a meth enthusiast, no doubt about it. But he's got his mom's gun at his house, and then that's extra, so many years on it. You can't get time
You
off.
call him a meth enthusiast?
Yeah, and he was like that. That's a real example. I'm not making it up. That's a guy who just had his mom's gun in his safe, didn't think about it, and then suddenly it's possession of a firearm in furtherance of a felony, and you can't get any time off through FSA or anything. He's gonna end up doing so many extra years and do the whole time. Like people say fall through the cracks like that. That's at least that's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What would your suggestions for criminal justice reform after spending time in prison?
There's no real way to do it. I'm gonna be straight up with you. I'm pessimistic on the subject because what they get away with in the BOP is anything they want. Like what they did to me has never been
Well,
questioned.
they
My
murdered
FOIA,
Jeffrey Epstein in front of the whole world in an American prison. I mean,
nothing's gonna happen. You, as a prison guard, like, do you know what you have to do to get busted as a prison guard? And I did time with several prison guards. I would give them the time of day because of who they were. You have to be the worst of the worst. It's man. And apparently the guards that threw me in on this more false charges, they were soon after that fired because they beat on a guy so bad that I guess he had an uncle in Congress or something was the only reason. But these things happen, and there's no accountability. I mean, the warden who knew this was a completely fake thing, cartoonish, would come and look through my cell in solitary, just stare at me. All right, it's not going to get answered. I put in a Freedom of Information Act request on this, and it's just been straight ignored. I put that in while I was in prison, a handwritten form. It went in, it
are
worked,
you
but
allowed to
now
like
they'll never do it.
write a book and name names and who, then are you allowed to use the names of the officers that were abusive?
Yeah, sure. Like, just because it's funny to me. I mean, I name Officer Durant in my book. Just a
Tell us that story.
magnificent loser. But there's no downside for me to name names. I really don't because this book was written in prison, and I was somewhat handicapped on what I could actually
Well,
write.
you had said that you were writing for two audiences. You knew that you were writing for the guards as well because they were reading it, right?
Yeah, everything was categorized and sent to every government agency, and I'm sure still exists, and they're having AI crack through it now. All my phone calls, which I get very mouthy on. Uh, and
Have
again,
you
it sounds
done
like
a
I'm inviting
Freedom of
trouble on myself.
Information Act
They're already on
yet?
me.
Have you did a FOIA request yet?
Request for.
Have you done a FOIA request just on everything a doc?
Yeah, and it's been ignored. They just won't touch it. It's in violation of the law, but it's the BOP. Who's going to tell? It's not a winning political issue. There's no politician that's going to be like, we're going to hold the BOP accountable. Not happening.
It's wild. It's wild that our prisons are so wild.
They are wild too. They're wild, boy. Let me tell you. Like, uh, yeah.
Give us one of the wildest experiences you had.
Oh shit. I have trouble. This is actually hard to talk about because like these people are still there, and I ain't no rat. So
I don't
let's
want you to
just
rat
say,
on anyone. Just maybe
yeah,
something that's comical or startling or.
the availability of things. The set prices. It's like a stock market. The price of a cigarette is going to fluctuate per month. Things like that, and you
Interesting.
kind of where it's coming from.
And it's coming from the guards.
Some of it, some of it was coming uh, via over the fence. It depends on what you're trying to get. Frankly, the cigarettes was yeah, that was the guards.
Let me ask you, I would have to imagine that organized crime networks actually get guys to go apply for jobs in the prison systems.
Absolutely, that's a well-known thing. Well-known thing. So some prisons will have uh, like the Bloods or the Crips will mass supply and get these jobs, and females too to supply everything that prisoners could need. It's absolutely a thing, but it's not a rare crime to have. They don't need to be ganged up for to smuggle. It's very profitable. I mean, I saw a guy spend individually 20 grand over about a month and a half on prison drugs. There's money to be made in cigarettes too.
So a prisoner made 20 grand selling drugs in.
No, spent. I'm not going to say who made the money.
Yeah, well, where did he get that money?
He had it. Like you can have $300 a day, sent to you in the thing. You can get $20,000. You can get $99,000 is the most you can have in your account in prison, and you do get an account there. Some guys have it full. Some guys are very well taken care of when they didn't
Are we
rat and they
seeing
worked
these mob
together.
movies where the mobbed up guys have like their own little apartments where they're making spaghetti? Did you see anything wild like that?
Yeah, some guys are very well taken care of, and some aren't. Like, uh, I know some of these drug boat drivers, they weren't making a lot of money in that drug boat. I'll tell you that it's not what you think. Some of them were making more money smuggling hamburgers and uh, chicken and cheese, a lot of cheese, big cheese trade there, and sent their kids to private school in their home country. But you
Wait,
can
wait,
make
wait,
some
they're
money in prison.
making money in prison smuggling cheese?
Oh yeah, that's a huge
And they're
racket.
making enough money in prison to send their kids to private school in their home country?
100%, yes.
Brother, you've
They're
got a
making
lot of
more there
people here to
than
run.
on the drug boat. Like, the wives are like, "Can you stay in America longer?" Like, "This is fantastic."
This is a great gig you have in prison selling cheese.
Yep, and it's all paid for in postage stamps that get, converted, via, like, Cash App and things, and, there's a hearty trade.
That's really unbelievable. So, tell me about, did you meet any like really interesting or holy people, like wise people, like you had to meet and get to really know well?
I did, yeah, there was, one guy he was doing a lot of time, still is, he's still in, and, he had, you know, a real reckless ass life before, both, outside when he was a gangster back in the day and, a real prison life after, because that's
Was he
what you
like a
gotta do.
gangbanger and a motorcycle gang? Like what?
A gang member, black guy, yeah,
Okay.
and the bikers, they were there too, the bikers and the mob guys all get along pretty well, but this was, outside of that, and, we could have real honest conversations about our predicaments and about Jesus and where we were, and that's it mattered.
How important is faith in prison? Is it a powerful force?
It's a that's a sticky subject because there's a lot of social rules in prison. You understand rules of association, I should say, but everybody can go to church, and a lot of guys who are very faithful people will not go to church because that means you're sitting next to and being polite for some amount of time to, child molesters and people that you're not going to interact with otherwise. Snitches and child molesters are very much on the same level in there, and to me as well. Um, it's there's that. So as a Catholic, we have obligations to go, and I did, but those people come too, and it makes church complicated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you have to be around people that even as you're in prison, but you don't want to be near these people.
Because they're not using it for faith, and they may have faith, they may not, but what they're using it for is to improve their social standing and try to be polite enough to get tolerated and things like that. And it's a different world in there.
They're trying to exploit faith.
Yes.
And what about the Muslim community? I know there's a large Muslim presence.
There,
They're in yours
I
prison.
respected them because they had their act together. Like, you couldn't mess with them. They actually would come at you. Uh, at the same time, all you got to do to be in the Muslim car is not a gang, car is your set prison group, is be a Muslim. So they would tolerate stuff that let's just say the white car wouldn't.
Snitches and pedos.
Yeah.
But you guys there'd be no snitches and
No,
pedos.
I was a white boy in good standing, and that's not something that comes without being thoroughly checked out.
It's so interesting that prisons are thoroughly segregated.
They weren't, like, in some places are. I wasn't really at a rough joint. I could be friends with black guys, whatever, not a problem, not even remotely. You know what I mean? But to be as it depends. Like, some guys will say, "Oh, I'm doing Christian time." What that means is they're going to associate with anybody who's a Christian. That's not good, because that invites a lot of questionable company.
Interesting. I met a guy who had been to prison many, many times. I met him right before his last sentencing. And he said he'd become a Christian since his crime and his sentencing had been like a year and a half. And he said he's looking forward to doing his last time in prison as Christian time. I
Yeah,
and I
that
said,
that 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 raises questions about a guy. Like, if we heard somebody say that,
well,
it's
he
like,
was a
man, now,
really good guy, and his crimes were financial, but he had said that he just wanted to be in prison as a Christian for once.
well, yeah, that he might have been using that in a different sense. Okay,
Yeah.
so there was one good dude I know, and he's got a good case. He was there for meth. He didn't rat, but he was doing Christian time. I think he got tired of it's exhausting. Do you understand? Like, not being able to trust everybody, put everybody through the scrutiny, but you have to, because the next thing you know, you just made friends with a child molester.
That's
You made friends
interesting.
with a
So when
snitch
you
who's trying to
do
get you
quote
to
unquote
say
Christian
something.
time, it's like everyone's accepted. And you're
Yeah,
not gonna be vetting your crew, and you're saying that this guy did it because he was tired of trying to weigh everyone.
yeah, which is a thing. Like, I got tired of it. Like, it's exhausting, and and like, I was in the library doing all this work, and that's like the gay zone, okay? And so you have to talk to him to an extent, and it gets a little blurred, and then you feel disgusting, and you got to be mean to him later, and it's don't go to
Now, do you
prison.
think that if you would and I've had friends tell me, "Jason, you're older. If you ever went to prison, it'd be okay. Being an old guy in prison is not that bad." Th
That's true.
and
But they
so
don't
they respect
care. Like,
age. That's it.
they would all the old guys, they would chill with whoever, and man, that was whoever. You know,
So if you're an old guy, you can hang out with the black guys, the white guys, the Mexican guys, the
no, that's
bikers.
all cool. I chill with all those guys. Like, I'm not gonna say which group, but I was the hawk man for another ethnic group, which
What's a
means
hawk man?
I would watch out from the top bunk to see when the cop was coming, so they could put the cell phone away. So I was well trusted. I had a good rep. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And my paperwork it checks out. Your paperwork is gonna be read. That lets them know if you're a snitch or a
Now
chummer.
that means they're gonna look at your case.
Yeah, yeah. And my case was, well, you look up people's paperwork on the cell phone, you go to the lawyer websites and you get it. But my case is pretty easy to find. I was well known before I ever arrived.
Did you have friends before you arrived and enemies, I guess?
Yeah. So the blacks were not thrilled to see me upon arrival. A lot of things being tossed around, but it's really nice because that didn't last. Uh, they would come up and ask your business because they want to know. They're legitimately curious, and I'd tell them, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, the news lied to me." Yeah, it did. And if I could get that in the outside, things would be great.
So yeah, so the black community in prison loved you.
Yeah, I mean, they not at first, but and there are always some holdouts, whatever, like Kamala Harris
See,
voters,
black
but
Twitter would love
mostly,
you, but the thing is, you're not even allowed on Twitter, are you?
uh, not my original account. I never got back on Facebook or
See, I
anything, but
think
I'm
if
on
they
Twitter
knew
now
you,
and being tolerated.
if they knew you, I think that they would love you right
And they
away.
did. That racially tension was not a problem there. It just it it wasn't in general at my spot, and it wasn't for me.
No, I was telling my
At one
sister.
point, it was.
I was telling my
There was
sister
an incident.
who's Muslim. I was going to have you on. I think she was like, "What?" No, I said he's a Proud Boy. I think she was like, "What in the world?" And I think she Googled you. I said, "Yeah, I think that leader of the Proud Boys is black." And this guy's what? I go, I don't know if they're telling us the truth about. Oh, I want to ask you about the cereal.
Yep.
So I remember hearing that you have an initiation. I'm remembering this from like 10 years ago that you get jumped and you have to say the name of 9 breakfast cereals and they hit you until you say 9 breakfast cereal. Now, I
5.
could, I want to be initiated just because I know my breakfast cereals, bro. I will do a
It's
very good job. I know every breakfast cereal.
it's hard because you end up,
So is this true? Wait, is this true?
yeah, it's absolutely true.
So tell me, what is the
It.
initiation? Tell us the initiation.
Well, you choose 5 guys to stand around you, and or the chapter chooses because they'll get the 5, biggest sluggers, and you get hit hard while you're trying to cough up 5 cereals, which is much harder than it sounds. And I mean, I personally cracked 2 ribs doing this. I'm retired from the breakfast cereal racket.
So you'll only have to do it once, right?
Yeah, you only have to, but then you go to a social event or whatever, and it's oh, give me a second degree. We want to do it in our chapter, New Jersey style, whatever it is. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, of course, I'm not going to disappoint y'all. And
Okay,
then,
do you remember what were the 5 cereals that you said? Do you remember?
oh Lord, I couldn't tell you. I'm sure Rice Krispies was among them, Captain Crunch perhaps, but you're just trying to think of anything.
I think that's hysterical. That's what I remember. No, when I remember until J6, all I remember from the Proud Boys was it was to get young men to stop looking at porn and something about breakfast cereals. And then all of a sudden J6 happens and you guys turn out to be this right-wing terror organization.
Well, nah, we were that before in the media because the whole thing of the Proud Boys, how it got controversial is whenever Antifa would show up and beat people down in the street for like going to a conservative speaker, we were the only group that would stand between them and the speaker, and it often got physical. It was never aggressive. Like I don't think the Proud Boys ever chased anybody down because we don't need to. Like the fights come to us too easily, and so that's when the media ran with they're the brown shirts and all this. They're shutting down whoever. Of course, the opposite is true. And
But you never initiated. You were always the and by the way, like a lot of people said, why was J6? Why were people wearing body armor? There was an event the month before that people were stabbed at by Antifa.
yeah, like
Peop-
several people.
People were
It's
coming
you
by
get
on
bricks.
scooters and stabbing, and someone got shot. And so people were really they went there wearing body armor because they were worried. And I remember saying to my team, like, look, we have to move in a group because the last event they were coming by on scooters and stabbing people by themselves. So
Yes,
this was happening. So you guys were, I don't know if the Proud Boys were there with body armor, but there was that one group that was, I forget their name,
the Oath Keepers.
Oath Keepers. They were
Yep.
like wearing Kevlar and body armor. And I
They're
remember,
a very different group. They believe in, themselves. You know what I mean? I don't think there was any Proud Boys there that thought they're gonna change anything. The Oath Keepers, they kinda thought they're gonna save America. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit different philosophy.
so the Oath Keepers were there for some mischief, you think?
No, I'm not saying mischief. They just think that, like, all this, protest stuff matters. Like, if the call comes down, "We're gonna save America," well, we'll suit up and do it. But younger people know the call is not coming. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as a practical measure, yeah, I've wore some helmets and things, and what I would often do is before I went to prison, but prison style, you get National Geographics and you duct tape them so it's not so obvious as body armor, and you won't be stabbed. A knife won't get through that. And
You have to do that in
it's
prison?
just no, I'm talking about when you go cover things or there's Antifa events. They're very, very stab happy. Like people get stabbed all the time, and you probably don't hear about it. So yes, you have to wear protective gear, and I mean, journalists do it all the time. They're like 18 miles from any front lines at any war zone. They put it on. They
Oh,
stand they
I've
stand at
seen
the
it in
deepest
Iraq
puddle
and
on the weather
Ukraine.
bulletin. It's
I
but
I was
we're
in
not doing
Iraq.
it for show.
I was in Iraq at the Intercontinental Hotel. That was in Erbil, which is like the most secure place on earth. And I would watch journalists on the hotel property in their flak jackets, their level 4 body armor and Kevlar helmets, doing a news report from the hotel property, like coming to you from Iraq. Okay. I've seen the same thing in Eastern Ukraine. I'm sorry, in Western Ukraine, you know, where you're, more likely to die from a bee sting than from Russian munitions. And
But when I wear a helmet, because there's Antifa in the trees with like slingshots and ball bearings, it's a real hazard. They say,
oh
"Oh, look
yeah,
at this guy,
I got knocked
ridiculous."
unconscious by Antifa. I happened to be at a funeral in DC the day that it was announced that Roe v. Wade was going to overturn.
Oh yeah, they took that pretty hard.
And I went there just to kind of cover. I was going from the funeral to the hotel, and I watched these 3 guys jump, these 2 guys praying the rosary. So I just kind of threw those guys to the ground. And then player number 4 came from behind. I didn't know what happened until people told me. But player number 4 came behind and cracked me in the head with a motorcycle helmet from behind, knocked me out.
Yeah, that's what they do.
I popped right
It's
back up.
ambush.
What's that?
It's always an ambush. They've had guys. They wait till you're taking a pee in a public urinal. They hit you with a brick when you turn around to bar, stuff like that. That's all real events.
Da 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 da. And yet we never hear about their extremist violence.
Right.
Is it changing under the Trump administration? Is anything being done about these groups?
Not really. It's disappointing because you'll see videos of all these people, college girls and boomer women that stand in front of and impede ICE vehicles or whatever it is. Like, do you understand how easy it is to write up obstruction of justice charges? Here's how easy it is. This is a real case guy I was in with. He got the phone to his wife and reminded her, "You don't have to say anything to the cops. You have a legal right to remain silent. Remember that." Boom, obstruction of justice, extra years on what was already a long sentence for
That's
financial
his
pain.
wife.
Yeah, but guess what? They can spin it up into anything they want. Okay, so if you are standing in front of a cop car, an ICE mobile, and you stop them, you can easily get that an obstruction charge. Like I was there on an obstruction charge, 1512C,
Yeah, but the
20 years.
but we have seen the law weaponized against conservative activists, where the way we haven't seen it weaponized against the left.
Is a difference in temperament. Our people simply do not have the desire or the stomach to do what needs to be done and turn what they do against the people that do it. And we're not close to it. And maybe the younger generation will correct that. But it's at the heart of it, a conservative wants to preserve the Constitution or whatever, and they're not going to do this. They're gonna say, "Well, we can't use the law like this as it's used against us. That just wouldn't be right." I'm sorry, but you don't have the option anymore. It's we're we've lost if you think that way, and we have been thinking that way.
Now you're a young guy. You spent how many years? 2.5 years in prison?
Yeah, just under 2 because I got out early.
Praise God. Okay, just under 2. That's a long 2 years though. What did you learn about marriage?
I learned I got the best wife in the world. When you see guys break down, it's always on the wall phones, and she's telling them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it. That's what you can't take. And my girl, she never once questioned. People don't understand. They're like my own family members. Well, you chose these right wing people over your own family. You should have cooperated and gave them what they wanted. You didn't have to go. That was never an option, and my wife never pushed for it, and she never questioned that I didn't take the easy way out.
Ooh, I love that.
Does that that's
That's
that's a hell
important.
of a
Your
win.
wife
Yeah.
respected. Have you ever seen the movie A Hidden Life?
No.
You have to watch this with your wife. It's about Franz Jägerstatter. He was an Austrian farmer who refused to say the loyalty oath to Hitler. He actually even went and fought in the military. He said, "I'll fight." But then they sent him back because he was a farmer. They said, "Oh, one more thing, though. You got to say this loyalty oath to Hitler because, Hitler invaded Austria." And he's like, "No, I don't say an oath to man. I'm a Christian."
Yeah.
And his wife says something beautiful to him the Nazis didn't want to execute him because he was a German, as an Austrian boy. They didn't want to kill him. They gave him every chance to repent and retract it and say the oath. And right before they're about to execute him, they say, "We'll pardon you fully. You can go home with your wife." And they bring his wife in, and he has two beautiful daughters. This Franz Jaeger's daughter. It's a true story. And his wife says, "I will be proud of you, whatever you decide."
Yeah, yeah.
And that was your wife.
Yeah, well, she's even better than that. I mean, she told me exactly what she thought of people who
She said,
did
"Snitches
renounce their
get
beliefs
stitches."
even.
Huh?
Yeah, not even snitches, but just went out there and I told my lawyer I had 2 rules: do whatever you want, I won't snitch, and I won't grovel. And boy, that just doesn't leave you much, I'll tell you that.
He's like, "That's
And,
all we got. We need you to
yeah,
snitch and or grovel. You got to do one or the
I
other."
mean, the groveling doesn't do much, but some people did, and she didn't like that either, you know what I mean? But that's
I
why
love
I
it. Shauna
dedicated
was like,
the
"No
book to
groveling.
my
Don't
wife.
don't embarrass us."
To Shauna, who never complained. That's She did not.
Praise God, brother. And 2 years, does it seem like it never, when I got out of the military, it's the first month, you remember this, the civilian life is odd. Civilians look weird, everyone looks strange.
Yeah.
And then but then before you know it, it feels like you don't even remember being in the military.
Yeah, it seems so distant. That it is your whole life. It's not a job. It's something else.
Yeah, do you feel now like you feel like you were never in prison, or is it gonna stick with you?
Nah, nah, I know it.
It's gonna stick with you.
Yeah, it sticks. And I don't feel like I can't go back. My judge refused to dismiss the charges with prejudice, keeping the case open, which is not even a legal possibility. A judge doesn't have the legal right to say when the prosecution says we are dropping the charges with prejudice, the judge can't say no, but she did. And these things just stand. And that's what I was saying before. These people don't care about the rules or integrity of the system. It's simply a tool that they can use to reward their friends and punish their enemies. And it's nice to have integrity, but when you're up against that, it just doesn't matter anymore.
I feel that that's what we're seeing now with MAGA and the conservative movement, that they believe it's power against power, and we aren't in a normal time. And so we're not going to do normal things. Do you feel like your generation has lost faith in the American system and we're going to be moving to something post constitutional, post American?
Yeah, I think so. I look, I'm pro founding father. I think what they invented was basically democracy combined with elitism. And I think that actually works, but that's not what we have anymore. And when you get these boomer Republicans who say, "Well, it's all about the Constitution. We gotta save the Constitution." But the Constitution doesn't say that we can't sex change children. So guess we gotta let that one go. No, we're not living this way anymore. MAGA, right wing extremist, whatever it is, the people my age and younger are not putting up with this anymore because we didn't grow up in America where there was any sort of fairness, and we don't have we're not under the illusion that it's coming back. Political power needs to be used against political power. That's exactly right.
It's and as someone who's I'm Generation X, but I have boomer conservative sympathies. I want to preserve the liberal world order that's free of conflict based on ethnicity or religion or tribe or and but I see in your generation just you've been so abandoned by us and younger generations than yours even where you'll see people like Nick Fuentes chastised by someone like Mark Levin. And
Yeah.
you're like, Mark Levin, shut up. Like, you're not the guy that should be chastising Nick Fuentes on bigotry when you're calling for the killing of 2 million Palestinians. You can't see
And
like
people see this.
this Congressman Fine in Florida when he sees pictures of dead Palestinian babies says, "Thanks for the pic. Can I have more?" Like, if this is what boomer conservatism is, which is, it appears what it is, your generation is looking at it and is authentically repulsed.
Yeah, and I never have been a groiper, but they're worse than me. The ones coming up are it's these are nice thoughts, but it's all things that have that country is no longer with us. I wish it was.
What do you think animates the Groypers?
There's a lack of possibility in their lives that they recognize that was there not that long ago, and they want it back. I get that. You know, I have nothing against Nick Fuentes personally. I think politically he does some things very wrong. Uh, but it's the mood is being recognized by all, and it's not coming from
Yeah,
nowhere.
to me, it's like Nick Fuentes is just a young man. But what's interesting that we should take very serious is that millions of young people follow him. Millions,
Mhm.
like more than Ben Shapiro, right?
Well, I think a lot of it is it's not so much the race stuff and the Jew stuff makes the news most often, but that's not really the main nugget. I think that it's a lot of young men who are sick of the feminized bureaucracy that has invaded the actual bureaucracy and all of professional life. If you go to college, and I did after the Marine Corps, it's nothing but a filter to stop me from being there. I was never going to get a job as a mainstream journalist, which is, what I wanted to be, but it was made very clear. Uh, it didn't do me any good. Like, no one's ever asked about my college degree. Well, what's the point? For others, it is a connection to that next step of life. But if you're HR compliant, and they don't want to live in that world, and I think that's where that mood comes from for the most part.
Yeah, I like how you put it, it's a lack of options. Like I look at this young generation of young men. Well, you look at the Proud Boys, initially pornography was a part of it, right? And it's just disgust at how they don't have possibilities for marriage, they don't have possibilities for career, and they don't have, and then we're chastising them for being angry, where we've
I mean,
little where we've literally obliterated all hope. They can't say, well, you know what, I'm never going to find a wife, but let me go make a lot of money. No, it's like you're not going to make money, you're not going to own a home, you're not going to have a wife, you're not going to have children. Why are you so angry?
yep. I mean,
Stop being
imagine being a
angry.
young man on a dating app. Do you know how brutal it is using dating apps? The it's not good. It's not just everything. It is everything else too. Like it, and there's going to be people that start providing real solutions to this. I mean, I've got one. I push this in every show I can. I simply want to return to elitism, by which I mean we don't need that much elitism. It's not the top 1% that's ever given me a problem in my life. I'm not a huge fan of the 1%. Mostly we have the wrong elite, but they don't cause me day for day problems. The bottom 10%, that's it. That's where all my annoyances come from. And if they were removed from the political system, I think we'd have a functioning country.
Well, that's sort of like Homeland Security has been posting these really, I haven't liked them very much, but they've been posting a lot on X. Like, if we remove these people, this is what America will look like again.
But you
But
can't. Everyone has if you didn't let women vote, the map would be red. Yeah, that's mathematically true, but guess what? No one's going to vote for that. It's not
right.
it's
Well,
not a
that's
possibility.
my point. It's like I
Right.
don't. How is getting rid of the bottom or managing this bottom 10% going to give young people dating options and marriage options and career choices?
Oh, very easily. Because we can get back to a functional constitution and debate these higher level issues when these people aren't voting. And here's how you do it. Next year on your taxes, I want there to be a little box that you check that says, I will take the $500 a month for free forever, please. And all you got to do to get it, no questions asked, you can have money, you can be poor, it doesn't matter, is you deregister to vote. That's it.
In
And
exchange, you
once
get
we do
what?
that,
You get
you deregister to vote.
you
You are
get
no longer in the
basic
voting room.
income.
Yeah, you call it universal basic income, whatever you want, just as long as it covers the price of a new Xbox. I don't care. You can name your price, but that payment has to be there. And we will end up paying much less in benefits and welfare with that payment existing than with the current system.
You think that you'd ever get people to support something like that?
Yes, I think it's a politically viable solution. I think it's much more viable than shit posting and saying don't let women vote anymore because no one's voting for that.
Well,
But
I
people
hate to
do
tell,
vote
I hate to give
$500 a
support
month.
of that. One of the saddest conversations I ever heard in my life was I got out of the Army and I went back to Chicago for a year to go to college because I had the Illinois GI Bill. So I left Hawaii, went back to Chicago, went to community college, and then ended up going back to University of Hawaii. But I was in line at community college for books, and these girls were in front of me. And the one girl said, "Are you sure this is going to work?" She goes, "Yeah, we use the Pell Grant money to buy the books. Then we buy the books. We never go to class. Then in 6 weeks, we can come back and sell the books and we'll get like $300 back. And a girl said,
Uh-huh.
I can eat McDonald's for a month with that. And they were like high-fiving and laughing. And I'm like, whoa, you are going to trade a college education for a month of McDonald's.
But
So-
these people have the right to vote. I have a solution for that, which I just gave. But the founding fathers didn't let everyone vote. Now they kept it to white landowners, which is a bit rich. We don't think like that anymore, and we shouldn't. But my solution sidesteps that whole racial issue and returns the demographics to electing things that we can all live with.
And the good news is in your plan, I get an Xbox every month.
Yep.
All I have to do is give up my right to vote. So if I could make one change, it would be that we would return electing this U.S. Senate to the State House of Representatives.
Okay. That was the original way, as I recall.
Yes. And when we changed that in 1913, all hell broke loose. You know, the idea is that when the Senate is the guardian of tax revenue for the states and power for the states. And so when the Senate is elected by the state rep, and your state rep, we all know our state reps by name. If you don't know your state representative by name, you're not doing your job. You should know your state rep. It's very easy to know your state rep and get to know them well. But, you know, we can all have access to our state representative. And if he was one of 50 people voting for your U.S. senator every 6 years, and every time our senator caused us trouble, you could remove him every 2 years to get a new senator in 6. Very, you know, it was great. And then you had the Senate, you know, you were pitting power versus power. Now the Senate was guarding state power from the federal government and guarding local and villages, counties, from the encroachment of federal government. So that would be the one change that I would make, even more than like a human life amendment to the Constitution, because I think we could quickly sort everything out.
Right. It's understanding how the system works and using it in the right direction, which I think we both do.
Yeah, but the problem is, I think we can never win that because it's anti-democratic. Like, you don't think we have the right.
I am anti-democratic. I'm
No,
reducing the
100%, but they
democracy.
would
I'm turning
just
that
sell
dial
the
down.
American people when they wouldn't understand that when your state representative is voting for your U.S. senator, you're actually having more of a say.
Right. And no one really supports direct democracy. The only guy that ever did was Mike Gravel, the congressman from Alaska. He died a few years ago, but he ran for president based on direct democracy. Like, this is a representative democracy, but it is a democracy, and it's working as intended. Believe it or not, it's a little too democratic for my taste. There's too many voices at the table, and they're asking for some very dumb things.
That's true. Now I want to close on your book. What's the give us your pitch for your book. I want everyone to read your book, everyone to go buy your book. It's beautifully written, and I like your empathy in there, and you especially when you were saying that there's some really smart people in here.
There certainly are. I may or may not have been one of them, but I think it's legitimately some of the best writing I've ever done. I'm really proud of how funny it is. It's a book that will make you laugh a lot, is what I was going for, but it's not unemotional. There's a lot of real things have happened to me and happened to a lot of people during these last few years, and it ends right before our current time with I was sprung out of prison the day before Trump was elected, so I didn't get to vote, obviously, but I got to spend my first night out watching this happen, and that's a very violent change for being on the wrong side of things. So this book I want to be a little epitaph for that time period, and we're starting a new one where we need to think about winning. The next book will be about winning. This book is about losing, which we're all very used to doing. But as we turn it around now, let's reminisce slightly. Let's have a few laughs, and let's remember how bad it got and how bad it's going to get again as soon as they get power. It's going to be a lot worse. Let's not let it happen.
Yeah, I've heard you say that many times in other places, and I think it's something that we need to remember. I think a lot of people just are imagining that there we got Age of Rot. And what did you you have a publisher for your next book?
No, we'll see who publishes the next one. It's about 25% written. It's very different. The working title is The Reactionary's Handbook, but it's not going to be like this at all. So this is your one opportunity to read this kind of book from
To
me.
laugh. And
Yes.
okay, on books, let's end on this. What we're gonna get your book. What other books? Was there one book you read in prison that really impacted you?
Uh, yeah, actually, I've got it right here. Uh, you can you can see my many highlights and bookmarks. This is by someone named Nicholas Gomez de Villa, and it's just a book of sentences. There's no chapters. It's written in Spanish and English, and it's simply aphorisms. It's right wing thoughts on the individual level, and it it taught me so much sentence by sentence while I was in. This is why I don't shy away from the term reactionary,
Now, who
because
was he? Who was the author?
he was a Colombian gentleman who was really only known for writing these individual sentences, and he wrote hundreds and he wrote thousands of them. And it's simple wisdom. I'm gonna just open to a random page and say all national histories have finally converged into a degenerate westernization. These are thoughts that we can think about. And this is all written in the 1980s and the beginning of the 90s
Well,
and
how
such.
powerful is that? Yeah, it's devolved into this big homogenized Western civilization. When you think of the West was such a beautifully diverse. I mean, Italy, wasn't in Germany weren't even countries 200 years ago, and
Right.
regions meant a lot. Villages. When I was just in the West Bank for Christmas, they would talk about being Bethlehemites. Their identity was not even being Palestinian. It's like, I'm from Ramallah, I'm from Beth Sahor, I'm from Bethlehem. And this used to be the West. It was a patchwork of endlessly diverse identities within Christendom.
It is, and it's adding up to something that's not the West. To quote Nicholas Gomez again, the Gospels and the Communist Manifesto pale. The future of the world is in the hands of Coca-Cola and pornography. And this is written a while ago. He died in '94, I believe. Uh, so yes, this book, it was sent to me by a fan, as was a couple hundred other books. People kept me going in there with the
Yeah, I
letters.
was sending you books and they stopped letting me. I think they just
It does become a fire hazard technically past a certain point, but I read them as fast as I could.
all right. Well, we're gonna get your book and we're gonna get this book. I can't wait to see you again, brother. It's good to see you on camera and give your wife my best. And I'm so happy you're home. And let's make sure you stay there.
I will. Things are going very well. You're talking about the first day we met. I remember that day very well because that was the day I found out that I was having a son. And now I'm out of prison. I've got 2 kids and one more on the way, and things are going well.
That's amazing. That was a beautiful day. I was looking for the pictures to put up during the show. I couldn't find any. So if you could find any, please send them to me.
I'll take a look
Maybe
here.
we can all meet together again one day in Hawaii.
I think it'll happen.
All right, Nick, brother, stay in touch.
I will. Thanks for having me on. I'll talk to you later.
All right, guys, that was Nick Ochs. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. Make sure you buy the book. It's really incredibly well written, and you need to get it. And I'm going to get the other book you mentioned, but I already forgot the name as well. And again, this episode is being brought to you by the Vulnerable People Project, standing in solidarity with the most vulnerable communities in the world. In fact, this week we're adding, I think, 9 new churches. 9 of the most vulnerable churches in Nigeria will be added to our security protocol. We'll be installing cameras and hiring security guards. Our goal is to reach 100 churches, schools, and hospitals in Nigeria by the end of this year. We've begun delivering firewood into Gaza, not only for the Christian communities, but for the orphans. And we have a really big initiative we'll be announcing in the coming weeks, which I think is probably one of the most important things that we've done at VPP. So go to our website, vulnerablepeopleproject.com, click up to the right to the donate link, and become a monthly donor and stay up to date with all of the work that we do, standing in solidarity with the most vulnerable people in the world when the world has turned their back and walked away. All right, until next time, it's been the Jason Jones Show.